There you go. I said you guys should get a price just from walking all the way over here. I mean, when you get this type of rooms, I'm telling you, the people who are here is because they really want to be here, right? I asked this lady, I said, where's the room? And she said, hold on. And after like 2 minutes, she was still looking. And I said, you got to be kidding me. She said, well, you know, it's a little complicated, this conference center. I've been here 4 times. I still have not said, I don't think I've walked it the whole way through. I don't have plans to either. You guys having a good conference so far? There you go. You like the keynote? Yeah? What'd you think about 2 hours for a keynote? Was that too long or not? No? Just right? Well. Oh, yeah? After you hit your stuff, that's it? Not bad. Not bad. Let me put my cell phone. So I was thinking of putting a very contemptuous, let me translate that. I'm from Mexico, so let me translate that into Spanish. A very wrong slide at the beginning saying this is not a 300-level session. You're not going to see product features here. If that's what you're looking for, you know, I'm very sorry. I'll apologize all the way through, but still, that's not what the session is. So let me tell you what it is so that we're all on the same page and you're very happy to receive what you were promised. I've talked to about 177 companies on what they're doing on private cloud, and this is what this session is about. So it's 99.99% strategy and what people are actually doing right now. These companies, you could say, are in the Fortune 5,000 worldwide. So it's mostly large companies. Does that make a difference for you if you're a small or medium? I don't think so. To be honest, I don't think so, but you'll be the judge of that. So as long as we're okay that there's going to be no demos and there's no product-specific orientation, you guys happy with that? You see, I find a problem when we go straight to, let's go see the product. Because I'm a kind of person of what are you going to use it for? Is that fair? What do you want to do first? So this session is what do you want to do first? We got 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes. So I guess, should we start? No, we shouldn't. Do we have 5 minutes or am I ahead? We do? Okay, no, we got to wait then. We got to wait. I got to wait. Tom is the track manager and I got to wait. Now, okay, can we all ask Tom why he gave us this room? Oh. Ooh. Tom rolls it like that. You saw that? He's mean like that. Now, let me tell you a couple of stories which are going to be interesting, which are prefaces, if you will, to this. I was really, really on the edge. And if we have time, and if you raise your hand, then I'll pull my laptop, and we can also do a little bit of this. I can make some time so we can make a little bit of this. I was on the edge 2 years ago. We did a really good study on TCO. Bless you, sir. A really good study on TCO. And it was a really good study for one reason. Because more than just asking, how do you save money? And where do you save money per workload? So understand, this is not a generic one. It's per workload. We even got the what actions those persons took. So what specifically did you do that saved money? What was even more interesting is that more than saving money, the study came out with people who are more efficient were the ones who were saving money. So the whole study is on efficiency. So I was thinking every now and then when I do this deck, I pull the other slides in, because it's it makes sense that you understand that this efficiency factors. But they're also the guiding principles that we use to build the stack that you just saw released a couple of days ago in the keynote. So for today, I didn't pull them in because I said you just saw the product of it. You see my point? You just saw the result of the idea. So I'll try to hack it into the slides and I'll tell you. But if at some point you actually want to see some of the slides of the TCO study, I'm not kidding. You just raise your hand and at the end we'll make some time and we'll go over them. Is that something that's interesting to you or just seeing the result is better? I don't see a lot of excitement, so it's a good call that I didn't put them in. Good stuff. There's space, guys. There's space all over. Please enjoy. Good, good. I'm going to let you enjoy your new surfaces for about 2 minutes. Are you all watching my credentials on Hotmail? It's not cool. There you go. Okay, good. No, I just wanted to have that up so I wouldn't spend more time on the session. Good stuff. Every now and then when I'm more crushed for time, I want to go into that. I'll show you that tool. I want to go into that tool, and because it's based on the Hotmail authentication engine, it sends a partner, it's a I don't detect this machine or this whatever, so it wants two-factor authentication in the cell phone. It just takes me 10 minutes more. We're good to go, right? That's it. I said I'm Mexican, man. Time is relative. 30 seconds doesn't exist. Imagine me, I'm not kidding, okay? I was in Germany about 3 weeks ago. Imagine me in Germany, right? They're like all specific, and I'm like, well, it's 98. That's 100, right? Like, no, it isn't. I was like, come on. Okay, guys, I'm doing half of the jokes to entertain you and myself, okay? So if you're not entertained, then half of the session is gone. Enjoy this. Look, I love my job for 2 reasons. I get to talk 98% of my time to people such as you, and then 2% of the time I get to smack the product groups. What's cooler than that, right? I was a CIO for a lot of years, for about 9 years. I ran a lot of the operations for EDS, Mexico, back in the days, back in the 90s. I'm a long-time operations guy, and I've been in this strategy game for quite a while. So I hope you enjoy this session. Let me tell you that half of the session is going to have a deep tone of humility. The studies and everything that I tell you were not asked on a tone of technology. So they weren't asked on a tone of were you using Linux or CA or Microsoft or IBM to do this. They were asked on what are you doing, okay? So half of the session, if you don't see me calling out a specific technology, understand that there was no question related to the technology. It was related to what are you doing. And then the other half is going to be deep Microsoft Kool-Aid. Is that fair? You did come to this conference. I mean, come on. What you expect? That's your fault. Okay, so let's start. By the way, the slides are published. You can get a copy. It's my pleasure. Enjoy them. Use them. I should have called actually this session how to talk to your CIO and convince him that a private cloud is a good idea, but not everything in it. But let's just do it. So let's agree first. Sorry, I didn't go through the agenda. By the way, every single slide is by my hand, so I just use it as a reference. So if you're expecting me to read off the slides, you'll be in for a surprise. I just use it as a reference, literally. We're going to go through the steps that I found to build a private cloud and then how Microsoft helps. But it's all really about best practices. So let's just start. Let's agree on one simple thing. And I'm really looking forward to you guys going like this or like this. That's the only movement I need right now. Kindly just agree or disagree. Do you agree that if you have a well-managed, consolidated, even automated, which is not there, data center, virtualized, efficient, you don't have a private cloud? Would you agree? Yeah? So you need something else to have a private cloud? Is that fair? By the way, there's still seats all over the place, guys, if you want a seat, so don't worry about it. I think you need some of this. And I think automated should be on the first column, but I'm being kind. Do you agree? By the way, I roam, just to make you guys feel uncomfortable. I think you need some of this. Now, why didn't I call this private cloud? Because cloud is a location. Stay with me. It doesn't matter. And some people say, oh, wait, God forbid, he didn't say compliancy. Well, aren't there community clouds today? What's the banking system in the world? What's the financial system in the world? What's the insurance business in the world? I mean, it's a community cloud, isn't it? Seriously. And if you don't trust it, then just pull your money out and put it in your house. But let's be honest, it's a community cloud, and communities get certificated as much as they required, and they involve as many lawyers as they require until an SLA and an agreement is reached. Is that fair? So that's what will happen here. Eventually, we will all sign enough SLAs, agreements, and penalties so that everybody agrees. And there probably will be a community cloud for financial services and one for hyper-related health, right? And one for defense. How did ARPANET start? And I'm not going to way back for you, am I? It was a community cloud. So this cloud word, I'm trying to take the word cloud and just destroy it completely. Okay? And just take it out of the conversation. Because I want you to realize that this doesn't work if you start talking about which tool am I going to buy. This works when you start thinking about two things. I shouldn't be walking in front of the speaker. Number one, who's going to consume your minutes? Let me explain what I meant by minutes. My cell phone is up there. I don't know where I left it. I love the analogy of a cell phone. I go and buy a cell phone because I want minutes. When I get it, I consume minutes. When the minutes work, I'm happy, right? I don't call anybody. At the end of the month, I get billed for. Do we have that in IT? No. How does IT work today? I'm not kidding, okay? By the way, and I'm criticizing you, I apologize. I call my friend over here, hey, I need this service. He says, let's have a meeting, right? That's where there's no automation. Let's have a meeting. So then we have a meeting, and then we agree that he's going to agree to three more meetings. Is that okay? Is that fair? And after 3 more meetings, we agreed to 5 more meetings, right? And after 18 meetings, we agreed to 3 things. He's going to give me this infrastructure, which is going to take him 25 meetings to get, and 5 months later, he's going to give it to me. And then he will figure out how much to bill me, if he bills me at all. There's no minute analogy here. Is that fair? Now you understand the difference between a cloud and that? This is a normal, custom environment. You will always have them. Stop trying to get away from them. You will always have something that's custom. Perfectly fine. But there has to be some other things which can be automated enough, right? And self-serviced enough, and resource metered enough, so that I can just press a button and get it. And I don't have to call my buddy over here. Is that good? So why don't we start there? Why don't we start at this point where we define who are your constituents, who are your users, What are the mechanisms of consumption that they want to utilize? I'm not talking too convoluted, am I? If it's a website, if it's a phone, if it's a whatever it is, right? And then how you automate the process to give them what they want. Plain as simple as that. Now, with that said, that can reside in your cloud or somebody else's. Now, in order for me to conduct this study with this 78 companies so far, it all started because of a simple reason. I started reading a whole bunch of books on cloud, and I am criticizing the market, and everything was just empty. I read 6 books on cloud, didn't like them. I read about 60 articles from all sorts of analysts, and everything was blah, blah, blah cloud. And if I were to take the word cloud out, it was the same blah, blah. It was networking, cloud, right? Storage, cloud. And it was look, I get it, but this is the same thing with if I take the word cloud out. If I just take it out, I don't take anything away from the content. So what I did is I went and asked people, what are you doing and how are you doing it? And what would you call best practice? I mean, sometimes it's just as important to understand what not to do. But what I wanted to find out initially, I got both, but initially was what are you doing that's working? And so in order to do that, I had to frame the question very well. So the first thing I did is I put the whole stack up there. I know the fonts are small, and I apologize, but I'll read this for you. You see, I hate it when some of us, the vendors, the partners of you, come in and just talk about a piece of the stack, right? If you think of some of the infrastructure guys, when I'm talking infrastructure, I'm talking electricity and air conditioning. They talk all the way at the facilities end. And when you talk to virtualization engines, and you know who I'm talking about, they talk in the middle, right? Maybe hardware storage, virtualization, that's it. And when you talk to database companies, you see my point, but they only talk about a piece of the stack. And when I press a button, I want the whole stack, right? I'm not asking for a piece of it. As I get excited, I talk faster. If I talk too fast, you stop me. So what happens here is I want to talk about the whole thing. So question number 1, when I press this magical button of a cloud in your environment, what do I get? And some people said, you get a VM. You see? An empty VM. How many of you are there right now? So you press a self-service portal, and you get a VM. Fair? Then I said, okay, does some of you press a button and get a pre-configured VM for that workload? But understand, this is still one VM world, right? Press a button, I get one VM. How many of you are there? Okay? So then I asked, okay, if you're not there, how about here? I press a button, I get a full architecture. Or I can add or subtract resources from a full architecture. Full architecture has to be more than one VM. It has to be a working architecture. It can be with or without data. Is that fair? How many people are here right now? Well, there you go, 1. I'll tell you what the numbers are so far, okay? About 80% to 90% of the market, so about 89% of the market is here. 1 VM, not pre-configured for a specific workload. About 8% is here. Did that work? Yep. About 8% is there. So 8% can do a pre-configured VM on a self-service portal. And about 2% or less can do a full architecture, addition and subtraction of resources to it. And 0.2%, I'm not kidding, is here, which is a Hotmail type. I put a Facebook type, right? I put in a login and I get full service. So very, very few are here. Now, what was very interesting is the people who were here also had the other 2 offerings. So they came to this realization that there's several constituents. And the first one being, what's the reason to do this? Well, most people said IT efficiency. And I'll go deep into this in a minute. But other people said business agility. So I said, wait, let me get away from semantics and understand what's the difference. So the IT efficiency people said, I'm in it for the TCO. I'm in it for the efficiency. I'm in it for doing it faster, better, etc. This is example, the cook trying to say, I want to chop carrots faster, okay? On the other side, there's the guy eating at the restaurant. And he doesn't care how fast you chop carrots. Is that fair? So are you doing it because you want a better meal for the guy eating at the restaurant, which would be business agility? Or are you doing it because you want the chef to cut carrots faster? And there's a big difference in the 2 projects because one is return on investment. In other words, one is an investment. The other one is a saving. You see, this one, the end goal is to save money and be more efficient. This one, the end goal is to make more money. You're not trying to save anything here. You're trying to make more money. Okay? Another great analogy that I've heard about this is this here is saving gas for our trucks. I'm not kidding. This one here is buying more trucks to do different truck lanes. So you see, very, very, very different types of projects. You got to be very careful not to mix them up. If you go into a private cloud, public cloud, or whatever type of project, and you have those two concepts mixed up, you're going to lose halfway through the battle. And I'll tell you why. Because by the end result, the customer is going to say, the customer could be your internal or external customer, is going to say, what are you trying to give me? There's no clarity in what the minutes are. Now you see what I'm saying? It's too convoluted. So let's start about what are the implications of this type of projects. Everybody gets this. If your application is tied down all the way to the driver, then there's no mobility for you. Is that fair? If your application is not tied to the driver and you can virtualize it, well, there's VM mobility. That's all there is, which is you can move it from one host to another, one data center to another. That's what we're all doing. We're all excited about this. The really tough thing starts here. When you can decouple, sorry, I went to click ahead. When you can decouple your application, when you can decouple the processing to the data. And the problem that we're talking about here is that up until right now, you thought I was being dumb and too simplistic, and maybe I was, but what I was trying to explain to you is that up until the VM mobility part, we're talking about infrastructure projects. Fair? This part here is not. This is a rewrite of the application. Oh, Lord, this is like, oh my God. What did he just say? That hurts too much. Exactly. It gets to a point where your infrastructure cannot subsidize your application anymore. It gets to a point where your application has to ramp up and take up the new attributes of elasticity. Who knows the difference between high availability and elasticity? Don't raise your hand. I'll tell you exactly what they are, okay? High availability is I'll put all my resources here, right? And when this part fails, God forbid, I go to here. There's 3 disasters here. Laugh whenever you want. Disaster number 1, the workload doesn't even know how to fail. So even though the cluster knows what to do, the application goes into coma. The second one is when I get here, these guys aren't ready to receive that workload. So God forbid they actually give me service. That's disaster number 2. Disaster number 3 is one of 2, right? Either I stay here for too long, and then how the hell do I get back, or getting back. What, this wasn't funny? Try it a couple of times. Tell me if it works. And it's not that clustering doesn't work. It's that we never tied in the application constituencies, dependencies, okay, the intricacy of the whole architecture to just the high availability. So high availability per se today has one deficiency. It's built on the fact that the infrastructure was going to subsidize the capacity of the application to understand where and when it works. Is that fair? Because the application doesn't give a, put your word here. So what am I trying to say? I didn't curse. If anybody's going to put that on I didn't curse. So, where am I trying to go with this? Elasticity is I'm going to run on 23 servers here and 42 servers here. And when I detect that this 23 services are giving me a degraded level of service, I'm going to move my workloads over here. So you see, this is the application understanding its performance and where it's running. You need to rewrite the app for you to get that. It hurts. But I'll tell you something. If you want to get to this world, where I can actually not only do workload mobility, but where I can actually do workload scaling, your app has to be aware of its performance. Is that fair? Now you see where I'm going? Don't think that your infrastructure project is going to be the end-all, be-all. It's halfway there. The other halfway is the application being rewritten. Okay? And no, we will not see a massive migration of everything because there's still mainframes out there, aren't they? We will see some apps make their way all the way through and some apps still be legacy. We're human. There's always going to be a little legacy everywhere. Okay? So I also want you to understand that the goal for everybody is not to grab everything and just take it here. Obviously, it's to take whatever makes sense and whatever gives you more benefit, whether it be IT efficiency or business agility. Now, with that said, let's start with different projects in mind. I'll tell you what I found. I found 5 types of projects, the last one being the most enticing and interesting to me personally. I hope you agree with me, but here goes. The first one, and there's going to be too much text on the slide, so if you want to read it, go ahead. But I'll just give you the summary. Number 1, I found people that said, and I'm not making fun of anybody, this was actually it was a horrible catastrophe. When Sandy hit New York, there were a lot of data centers, not a few, but a lot, who failed over from New York to New Jersey. Is that a good idea? So people said, we want to move the workload. But they said, now that we're moving the workload, let's buy a container, let's buy an IT pack, let's buy a pod, let's do something more creative. And why don't we go to Vegas? No, not for gambling, because Hoover Dam is there, and the price per megawatt is a lot cheaper. There you go. Now we're talking. Or to the plains of whatever. You see my point? Let's take it somewhere where we're going to save a ton of money just in electricity, because it's a simple project. You build it, you save money, and there you go, right? So the first type of project is an IT pack or a pod. Don't get excited. This is once. This is if you have the cash. Not everybody does. This is if you want 3,000 servers in a pod or a pack, right? Or 500 and above. And what you save is immediately. You save on CapEx and OpEx. Fair? Next. If you call that a cloud project, God bless you, I wouldn't. I would call that a good infrastructure project, but some people call it a cloud. And then there's the modular blades, storage, networking, and I love the word appliance. Now, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against appliances if you actually use them for what you certified them for. Now I'm making fun of you again. Because you know what? I've seen too many people buy an appliance that was certified for VDI and they use it for databases. Or one that they bought for database and they use it for whatever. Look, if it's certified for something else, and just buy servers, man, seriously. You're going to save yourself a whole bunch of money on the certification. Is that okay? Did I say any heresy right there? Okay, so don't buy appliances for appliance sake. Buy them because you're going to use them for what they were certified for, because somebody predid the architecture for you. But there's something to be said about new house. When you move into a house, you sort of get a chance to be a better person and clean your closet. Right? So think about it this way. The only thing we found is people who were actually going into new type of hardware environments actually had a chance to get 30% better efficiency for one simple reason. Because they started doing configuration management again, something that they were just not as fresh upon on their previous architectures, or that they had lost the focus on. So the focus here is not that the new hardware gave any benefit, it was that the practice of configuration management back to its basics provided, again, a huge benefit by itself. But what got more interesting when people said, well, doesn't virtualization give me any TCO? Be very careful with your words. TCO is total cost of operations. What virtualization gives you is TCA, total cost of acquisition. In other words, it's cheaper for me to get it, but once you got it, that's it. It's not going to become cheaper, right? Once you've consolidated, that's it. You're consolidated. It will not become cheaper. Is that fair? So with that said, let's go to the last one, which is the one that really, really excites me, which is what would happen if, God forbid, you follow me on this example, okay? Stay with me. I have, and I'm going to say a whole bunch of names of every company out there, why not? Tivoli for configuration management, right? And then HP for monitoring, and then System Center for self-service or whatever, and then for backup I have CA ArcServe, and then I'm going to have to start stacking this up, and then VMware for virtualization, right? And I'm going to have, once I get to this point, I'm going to ask you 3 questions which are true for any environment. Dear sir, if you allow me. If you're the most senior and really most perfect operator or system administrator that I could get, and I give you this 8 technologies, and I don't certify you, because God forbid I do, right? Some of you are the luckiest ones who actually came to the conference. And then I grab and I give you this 8 technologies. Who's the orchestration engine? You are. 2 hands, 2 eyes, 1 screen. Now you understand where I'm going? It doesn't matter how much automation orchestration I give you. Who's the orchestration engine? Who's the main console? So my point here is quite simple. You cannot say in any environment that you're going to consolidate this 8 into 1. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't exist. But what if I would consolidate 3? What would happen if I consolidate 2? You see, I'm going to go really humble. What would happen if you just do the right level of monitoring configuration management for a workload instead of for anything and nothing at the same time, right? And just ping the server. If you actually do that, what you get is another, and I'm not kidding, 30% of benefit. Because what I just said is you literally consolidated or integrated the management stack. So what we found is people that are integrating, right, the management stack, and that are consuming 2 or 3, and that those two or three are well-orchestrated products that actually provide you a continuum. And you don't have to be the genius on Active Directory if you're managing a SQL server. But the management pack that you are managing, right, that you're controlling and monitoring has a dependency on the other one. The other one has enough knowledge. If that happens, then you actually not only become more efficient, but you're able to do predictive maintenance. You're able to do the more advanced features of management just because the system plays well together. Okay? So, if I ask you which private cloud project you're working on, it's because when we started asking, we got a whole bunch of interesting responses. Let me show you the survey results from this 177 companies. And this says 150 because I stopped updating the slide then, but the numbers down here are updated completely. So here goes. Number one, when we asked, what's your motivation for the project? Everybody, when I said that, I mean 80%, efficiency. And about 15% or so said business agility. But most people said, we want IT efficiency. And this was corroborated when they said, what benefit are you expecting? I want you to see this. Efficiency, lowering budgets, automation, and self-service. It's very interesting that we got those replies. Because everybody said, if I do this investment, I'm expecting a lower cost of operations eventually. But what was very interesting is if you look all the way down, when we said, are you expecting cost immediately? Everybody said, no, not immediately. So this was way more mature response than we expected, with all due respect. Because, you ask somebody who owns the budget, do you expect a lowering budgets? And they're like, yes, immediately, right? So it's very interesting to say, no, we understand we need to invest in this space to get lowering budgets. But what was even more interesting is some of the business agility aspects. If you read this, it says, we want to achieve compliancy. So we found a couple, not a lot, but a couple projects for automation that were actually not focused on a self-service portal, but that were focused on achieving compliancy. Or that were focused on achieving business alignment or less bureaucracy, if you will. It was very interesting to find some of those automation projects and them being called a cloud project, right? I would have just called them what they were, but whatever. Then we found something even worse. Worse because it saddens me to say that over 60 to almost 70% of the projects we found were still in the design or exploratory phase. But the worst thing that we found, and this is my first advice to you and my best advice to you during the whole presentation, is you got to be very aware of what is going to mark your success. And believe it or not, we found that about 90% of the environments that we talked to did not have new KPIs. Let me explain what a KPI means to me specifically. It means you have a measurement in place and you have a specific goal for that measurement that says, when I get here, my project was a success. Is that fair? Understand, I said probably right now one of the most contemptuous things I'm going to say in the whole session. This people, which is probably very similar to your environments, I kind of hope, did not necessarily start by saying, how are we going to measure if we're successful? This is an operations project. You need to have a measurement of success. Okay? I cannot state that hard enough. Now, I've beat that one to death. Let me go straight into the best practices. We found a couple of interesting things. First is, everybody that was successful did these 3 steps in this order. So that was the first aha moment. The first thing was, define a measurement of the unit and continuously monitoring. So they said the unit that we're going to provide is, I don't know, a web server pre-configured for marketing, right? Tell me an example. And here, let me give you a better one. A workstation for medical stations within a hospital. We just did that in New York, okay? So this very large hospital group, so it's not just one hospital, it's about 15 hospitals. What they wanted to do is they wanted to provide medical stations, and they wanted to provide a static image, right? And they did not know if it was a VM or if it was a terminal or if it's RDP, it doesn't matter. But the point is they wanted to provide that on request because they have a lot of people who are trainees, right? So students and all types of trainees, nurse trainees, etc. So they wanted to provide a very simple identity system that was not managed by IT. This is where it gets interesting. It's a self-service portal by the management of the local stations. So let's say it's a nurse or it's a doctor, practitioner, or whatever. They wanted him to be able to manage his group. and who got a station when he didn't get it, when it was released, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just a simple example. So measurement of the units, continuous monitoring it, architecting above the infrastructure layer. Did you hear me just talk about infrastructure layer? You have to talk about the whole service. Architecting above the infrastructure layer, and most people are starting with test dev. There's no sin in that. That's a simple one, okay? So if you want to start proving the case there, that's fine. There's a lot of benefits there. And then the next one is build an application catalog. God forbid you go here again. But you know what? I'm not talking about a full application catalog. I'm talking about the application catalog that's relevant for the cloud. So in other words, if it's 5 apps or 5 services, that's all you need to build. But build it. You see where I'm going? Build it and publish it. Once you do that, define the standards for those environments and define how you're going to manage the service definitions, and then provide a service catalog. That means publishing it to the constituents who are going to consume them. This services could be IT to IT, so me providing you with VMs. It could be IT to end internal business user, like the example with the hospital, right? Me providing you with a workstation. Or it could be, and we've seen also cases of this, IT to end consumer, which is example KLM. It's a beautiful example. They did an incredible project on private cloud, and then because of the agility they achieved on their infrastructure and the automation of operations, they were able to deploy a new service, which is self-tagging of bags at the Amsterdam airport, at Schiphol airport. So very interesting cases, right? And then last but not least, grab a legacy application and start migrating it, right? One that really makes sense, one that the business gets excited on. So first prove the case for automation and then take it. So let me go a little bit more nitty-gritty. I hope this part is something that you really enjoy, because we worked like crazy the last 6 months for this part right here. So we've had this model, this maturity model for a long time, for about 8 years. I'm one of the proud fathers or grandfathers of this thing. And I'll tell you something. We've been using it and rehashing it and reusing it. But this last iteration is really something to speak about, and I'll show it to you in a minute. Let me show you what we did. The idea is simple. First, you determine what gets you interested into the cloud, right? So maybe it's one of the trends. And then you say, this is going to be my KPIs, right? The KPIs that I need to be successful. Once you do that, you have to get to a point where you realize that if you don't have a specific capability, like federation, I mean identity federation, or standard configuration management, and automated configuration management. Excuse me for the bad reference, no cloud for you. Did you get what I just said? If you configure your servers manually, no cloud for you. If you just monitor at the level of operating system, I didn't say ping, I said operating system services, no cloud for you. You see, you need a certain maturity of operation. Is that fair? You need a certain level of operations before you can automate it. Because you know what? One of the best projects we got involved in, the customer came up to us and they said, okay, I'm going to orchestrate and automate everything. Give me orchestrator, give me PowerShell, give me training, give me this, give me that, give me. And we said, okay, you got it. We got there. And we said, what are we going to orchestrate? We're all excited here, right? And the guy said, no, I don't have any processes defined. No cloud for you. You see, because if you don't have any processes defined, how can I automate them? Now you see where I'm going? They have to be first defined, and then they have to be distilled into somewhat of a good practice. So not because, this is like the joke, if it says it on the internet, it's right. If you define a process, it doesn't mean it's good. Is that fair? It's got to go through a little cycle and through time and through a little peer review, God forbid, right? And we've got to go through the old process. This is for the mainframe people in the room. Old process of pre-production, God forbid. What we forgot. Test things in somewhere before you throw them out into the world. So that said, whether you use the method that I'm going to show you in a minute to assess your maturity of operations, or you use anything else, to be quite honest with you, I don't mind. I have no emotional attachment to this. But I'm trying to highly recommend to you, understand where you're good and when you're bad. Because if you don't bring those dinosaurs out of the closet and start fixing them, you're going to be in deep trouble once you try to automate this processes and services. And you're going to stop right in the middle. You don't know how many companies we found that bought a whole stack for a cloud, and it was an automation stack, and they ended up, a couple $1 million later, they ended up providing, after you click a button, a VM. And I'll tell you something. After a couple $1 million, I click a button, I get a VM, somebody should get fired. Is that fair? Because I could have done that with a couple of 10,000s. I said 1,000 or 10,000s, whatever, but a couple and that's it. You don't need millions. So this is where it gets interesting. So once you've realized where you're not doing good and what you have to uptake, then you can do which attributes do you, or play the game, which attributes do you need. How many of you think you need multi-tenancy? You see, there's a couple of hands. I mean, I know all you are very shy people and don't want to raise your hands, but right. But understand, not all of you need multi-tenancy. Is that fair? Does everybody here want to do chargeback? That's like the self saying that I want the 10 plagues of Egypt, right? Drawn upon me. Because chargeback is like being an outsourcer. Like I was an outsourcer forever, right? And I'll tell you something. You're not from the house. You're not even the cousin. And whenever nothing works, you're not only kicked, you're not paid. Right? So chargeback is something like that. So people are trying to do showback. You know what showback means? Is I mock charge you, you mock pay me, and we're mock friends, and we mock love each other. So see, showback is beautiful. Chargeback is finance, don't give me any allocations, now you pay me. Because guess what? You don't like me to begin with, right? And then you don't want to pay me either. So now you understand what's the difference? We always measure the technology, we never measure the emotions. And guess what? It's all about people, even though we don't like to think so. So God forbid what happens here is you don't select everything. You just select the ones you need. And then with that said, what we came up with is we started analyzing what was cloud. And we said, let's think about this. And we came up with this chart. And I'm not going to tell you who's who, but everybody's here, okay? All the ones famous that you know about, all the analysts, they're all here. And you know what we found? Nobody agrees with each other. Look at the chart. It's horrible. So we said, you know what? This is not interesting, but what's actually interesting is this column here, the attributes thing. So we came out with 15 attributes. And I'll just go through this in a second, okay? Because you'll see them through the presentation. I've already talked about continuity. Let me talk about elasticity. So I'll start with scalability. Scalability is your ability to add or remove resources from a workload without damaging it. But I didn't say anything about downtime. Elasticity is being able to do scalability without any downtime. There you go. Now you see where I'm going? So we started analyzing and saying, how do you convey this, right? And then what happened is we talked to Gartner and Forrester, and they saw this and they loved this. They said, you know what, you really did a good job. So when we talked to 100 customers, 100 partners, I'm not kidding. This was the sample size. And they really, really liked it. So we got sort of like a big kumbaya certification for ourselves. And what was interesting about this is everybody's adopting this very seriously in the market. And it's because these 15 attributes, look at them, tell me if we're missing anything. That's the big question we're asking. Almost nobody, if not nobody, has come back and said, yep, you're missing something. So let me go through them super quickly. Elasticity, access anywhere, security, resource pooling, multi-tenancy. Multi-tenancy means segmentation and isolation. You with me? Segmentation is isolation is you guys don't know they exist and they don't know you exist. Okay? Segmentation is if this side of the room blows up, they don't even find out. Before 2012, Windows Server 2012, I'm not kidding, that was not possible. You could only do that through physical separation of servers. Right now, you're getting segmentation and isolation. Now you see the difference? Same IP, same fiber channel data fighters, no conflict whatsoever. Now you see where I'm going, okay? So what's interesting about all this is if you keep going, integration, customization. Customizability is because everybody that did this project is an international person and we don't know how to speak English, okay? So it should have been customization, but God forbid we got it right. Resource management, that was my second bad joke of the day and nobody laughed. What's wrong with you people? Metering and chargeback, self-service, audit and compliance, scalability, continuity, workload relocation, and service management. I'll tell you something really cool. Think of the projects that you're going to do and think on two vertices. One vertex is, think about this. Which attributes does each service need? Because you don't need all of them. So you don't need the 15. So if you need this 7 attributes, that's all you got to build. Now you see the brilliancy of this model? Instead of trying to build everything, build only what you need. And then realize that not all services should exist within your private cloud. There's going to be some services that actually make a lot more sense, like customer-facing services that look into the public cloud. Let me show you what we did on this model, and I really hope you enjoy it. So I went to this page, which is Microsoft.com/optimization. That's the only thing the only link I'm going to reference today. And I went down here and I clicked on the big button of click here to start. And it took me to this page. Okay? And this video is going to show you what I'm going to show you right now. So I click here on begin your journey, and because I already came in, there you go. And you got to authenticate with your Hotmail or Live credentials. So if you don't have them, go get a Hotmail account. Now, this says create an account, delete an account, because we did this for partners, but I'm recommending this for customers every time I talk. So you create an account. Then this account could be a subsidiary of your company, a region, an aspect. If you measure too far up, it's going to be irrelevant, right? You want to measure a little bit further down, somewhere that it's really relevant. And what am I going to do? I'm going to assess the maturity of this company. So let me do this one because it's already pre-filled. There's 3 maturity models. I'm not going to go deep into this right now. Infrastructure, productivity, and application development. We're just going to look at infrastructure. And we're going to look at this guy here, data center management and virtualization. So this is the maturity model. And you see we have this aspects right here. And I'm urging you not to listen to me, but to go do this, right? Go take a look at this. It's probably the best 15 minutes I can recommend this conference. So let me show you one, which is data center management and virtualization. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Stay with me. What best describes your software and configuration library maintenance strategy? And I'm going to ask you, what is your current state, your as is? Did you notice if we asked right here which technology you're using? We didn't, right? Or which combination of tools? We didn't. We asked you, what's your strategy? And your answer can be, I don't have one, it's manual. Or, I have a defined software library. Or, I have software and configuration library maintained in current updated levels, version control, and auditing on demand. That means automatically done, so automated through one or several tools. And the last one is governed software and configuration library with compliance auditing. That's called Star Trek, Star Wars. Almost nobody does it. Okay? So I'll give you another one, just in case that wasn't good enough for you. Would you like to see high availability? Yes. Okay, there you go. Now that we agree. So, no high availability strategy. The first one is going to be servers, hot spares, and virtualization. The next one is going to be multi-level server availability clustering or load balancing with virtualization and management, dynamically move applications and services across data centers. And the last one is service availability during complete site outages. So worldwide or geo-clustering. Okay? Is this good or not really? You know why this is cool? Because you put here where you're at, you put here where you want to go, you just build your roadmap right there. Let me show you the last one. Who said wanted to do chargeback? Don't raise your hand. I saw you the first time. You see, I don't have any chargeback. I have a process in place to assign costs for static service allocation. Static service allocation. Means I have a unit cost and it's not flexible. If you use halves, you get charged full. Now you see where I'm going? The next level would be, I have a chargeback-based cost on resource allocation and consumed. Chargeback is aggregated, and abstracted units are defined. And the last one is totally dynamic. Okay, let me stop this. Once you do this X-ray, let me say this again in plain English. Once you take this X-ray of yourself, this is not a Microsoft certification, this is not a Microsoft assessment, this is you doing a self-questionnaire, a self-service questionnaire, and you taking yourself an X-ray. Once you do this, we can do all sorts of really cool things. Let me show you what I can do. Basically, I'm going to go back to the slides and then come back to the tool for a second. What I can do is this. What does continuity mean? You remember the analogy of continuity and high availability? What does continuity mean? Well, it means a specific maturity level. Now, we have 4 maturity levels like you saw right now. The first one is basic, unstructured. The next one is standardized, structured. The next one is rationalized, which is pretty optimal. And the green is Star Trek, Star Wars. Okay? So it works like this. If I want continuity, shouldn't I have, don't read this, let me read it for you. If I have continuity, or if you want continuity, shouldn't you have, just say yes or no, shouldn't you have resource capacity management and consolidation at least at a standardized level? Right? Shouldn't you have service monitoring and control at least at a standardized level? Now you see what we did? We did a filter on this X-ray. It's like a veneer. So you lay this veneer or this filter on top of the X-ray that you took of yourself, and you find out what's your gaps for the cloud. Nobody's smiling. What's wrong with you people? This is pretty cool. I know. Excuse me? No, I don't want to know that. So let's do the cloud analysis tool. You see, this cloud analysis tool has 5 steps. Trust me, even if you don't like this and you don't want to use this, listen to the 5 steps because they're based on the best practices that I just told you, and they're extremely useful. Step number 1. Step number 1. By the way, you can skip any step and enter the questionnaire at a later step, okay? So step number 1. What do you want to achieve? Which applications do you want to take to the cloud? Is that the right first question? Don't tell me you're taking everything to the cloud. I don't believe you. What do you want to take to the cloud? Okay, so out of this catalog, which is not the best, not the worst, it's just a catalog of applications, I said for this insurance company, I want to take the call center, dashboards, document management, messaging, portals, and web analytics. So then the next question is, why? As if this is really dumb, right? Why, buddy? Why do you want to take them to the cloud? Well, guess what? I want elastic OpEx, right? I want to pay for what I use. I want efficiency, and I want rapid prototyping. None of those are bad things, right? But then the question would be, okay, so you said those 3, and you can build custom ones, by the way. How do you build a custom one? You come in here, you create it, and you say which attributes that requires. Pretty cool? So once you do that, the next point is going to be, okay, you've told me what you want to take to the cloud, and you've told me why you want to take it. Let me give you a recommendation of which attributes you're going to need. And then you come in here and you say, no, you know what? No, something is wrong here. Those guys from Redmond don't know what they're talking about, and you're right. We don't need access anywhere. We need metering and chargeback. Okay, there you go. Why not? And so you evacuate this, and then we get to the best question at the end. And the best question is, why not? What's going to stop you from going to the cloud? So here I've listed the common three themes that I've heard over and over and over. The first one is data protection. Fair? The next one is compliance. And the last one is cloud sprawl. In other words, you got my credit card and you can charge me all. So aren't those the 3 the best? Well, it's in my opinion. You know, I'm just trying to entertain you here. But I'm trying to say, you pick whichever you want. There's a whole catalog of them here. Once you do that, we get to this point. Now, this is a great point because it's going to tell me, if you want to do this in private cloud, you need 27 steps. What are these steps? The steps are, you said in your X-ray that you had software, library, and configuration, whatever, at standardize. Because you chose portals, and that requires resource management, these attributes, you need to be at rationalized. Let me stop here. If I don't finish my presentation and I just stop here, I'm a happy man. I'm not kidding. You know what I just did? I just did an assessment on you, which takes an afternoon or a day. You do it by yourself. You invite us to participate with you. God bless you. Once you do that, you assess which applications you want to take to the cloud. And then after you finish this assessment, we come back with 27 steps, 15 steps, 9 steps. Those are your projects to go to the cloud. Is that cool or not? So you see where I'm going? I know I'm sorry. I am doing a demo. I lied to you. Told you I wasn't going to do demos. And yes, I told you this is not technical. But what am I trying to say here? Stop trying to figure out what you're going to buy. I have 3 bicycles, and I've said this joke forever. I'm still fat. Every time you buy a bicycle, you know what you get? A bicycle. What a hard thought. Do I get fitter because I'm buying a bicycle? Who's outsourced right here? Somebody's outsourced right here. Don't lie to me. I'll tell you something. I have 2 subscriptions to 2 gyms. I'm still fat. Be careful with me. I'm full of analogies. What I'm trying to say right now is it's not what you have. It's how you use it. Okay? And this whole thing focuses on how you use it. I have no idea how much time I have left, so I'm still, okay, good. Oh, we got some good time. Good stuff. So let me show you some of the reports, because some of the reports that this thing spits out are super cool. Now, understand, you see here private cloud, and then this is SaaS, and then this is PaaS, or the Microsoft Cloud. Be careful. These 3 projects here could be a lot harder than this 27. There's no weighting. There's no weight on the hardness or the difficulty of the project, okay? So you have to see each one. But now, if I see pros and cons, if I want to go to a hybrid environment, it's going to tell me the pros and cons based on everything I chose. So all this is dynamic content. If I go to private, it's going to show me different ones. So pretty cool stuff. You can also do this. Generate the roadmap. And the roadmap, this is worthwhile waiting for a second. I'm not going to do the whole thing again. We ask you number of service PCs and approximate revenue for one reason, because this is a certified Forrester TEI. So almost Roy TCO type of study. Not a Roy, sorry, a TCO type of study. They do a different methodology, which is called TEI, and we certified this for that. So that's why you need those numbers. Now, if you don't put them in, or garbage in, garbage out, obviously, right? But if you're interested in the financials of this, you can do this. Now, why is this so cool? Because, let me show you a couple of these things. Let me see if it may take a second, and I'm not interested in waiting too long. So when I get this PowerPoint, basically I get the different financials for the different types of clouds. So it says if you go into a private cloud based on what you said, it would cost you this much. If you go into a SaaS or PaaS, it would cost you this different. This thing here is a Microsoft project file. Let me go into this. Because we understand out of the 27 projects that we just came out with, or 17 or whatever it is, we understand the steps. Let me say this again. You said you were in standard to rationalized, right, on software configuration library. That step, we went to our Microsoft Consulting Services and asked them, what is the standard 17 steps we need for that project? And we build that into a modular project file. So we can build a project file based on those steps. So this is a dynamically generated Microsoft project that shows you what is it going to take. Now, is this the best all, end all that you should go consume? Absolutely not. It's an amazing 50% start for you, okay? That's what I would call it. It's an amazing thing for you to start to look, what is the effort required to do something like this? Now, it is incredible because you're already starting from somewhere, not from scratch. And the last one is the same thing. You see the architecture diagram? This is a dynamically generated Visio diagram of the cloud architecture we recommend for what you said you wanted to build. Now, this is the only one that's infused with all the Kool-Aid of Microsoft, and you get all the project, all the servers here. Everything else, let me say this really hard. Everything else is absolutely agnostic. This whole model is absolutely agnostic. It does not apply to mainframe, sadly, but it applies to every other technology just as well. And we did that because that adds validity to the whole process. Okay? So, nobody's smiling yet. Okay, I guess we will not build models like this in the future because you don't like them. Isn't this cool? Okay, so look, I know I've presented before on the maturity model and all that, but I think this iteration of it is extremely practical and really cool. We try to make it super simple so you just would consume it and be done with it, right? And not focus on the model per se, but on the benefits. Okay, with that said, let me go through the last couple of slides on the benefits. So what I did over the past 6 months is I started asking all the people who came back and said, I have a pretty good private cloud and I'm pretty happy with it. And for me, one of the requirements was that they had to say the words, I'm proud of the result. Because those are really good filters, right? If you ask somebody, are you proud of what you build at the end? Only the people who actually achieve success will say, yes, I'm pretty happy and I'm going for iteration number 2 or whatever. And the ones who say, no, I'm not happy with what I ended up, you don't want to ask what are the best practices. You want to ask, what did you do wrong? So what we asked is, what did you do right? And we learned a couple of things. Now, if you're finding here the theme for what you saw in the keynote, that's exactly right. All this information, we infuse it back to the product groups. And this also provides, not the sole source of, this also provides guidance for how we build our products. So the first thing is extreme standardization. Now, let me go into this one deeply. If you think I just said configuration management, you're absolutely wrong. This is that you have standard configuration, standard deployment method, standard monitoring for pre-production and production, okay? Standard backup recovery and or high availability mechanism, standard method for maintenance and patching, standard method for monitoring performance, standard measure for monitoring resource utilization and or capacity planning, and I killed the pointer. And last but not least, standard method for removing resources from the workload. That's extreme standardization. Everything else is standardization. You see the difference? This is the second demo. There you go. I survived the jump. So, what am I trying to say here? This is not going to work across all your workloads. Is that fair? Can you do all that for all your workloads? Go like this. Don't lie to me. So what am I trying to say? You're going to pick a couple workloads and make them work like this. Okay? Else, don't go to the cloud. You're going to hurt yourself more than you try and spend a ton of money. Automate it. Standardize it. Monitor it. Every single technology that we're deploying for the cloud is perfect for any workload. But drink the whole Kool-Aid only for the ones that you can achieve the full workload. Is that a good advice? So what did I say? Because I love it. After this, there's going to be a tweet of, there's a Microsoft guy said, no, don't go to the cloud. I know it. There's going to be one guy just like that. Always is. No, I didn't say that. I said, go to the cloud, just don't go to the full cloud. Now, let me say it in perfect sense. Okay? Don't try to take the whole workloads and take them this way, because I'm sure that the operational level of them is not ready for that yet. So first, make sure that the most mature ones that you have are there. The next level is baselining. Baselining is not monitoring. Let me go here. Baseline means like this. Not only am I being able to monitor and detect the efficiency and status and health of the application and or service end to end, but I'm able to determine preconditions of failure. How do I do that? Well, you got to monitor end to end first. It's not a simple thing. And then second, you got to bring somebody in that not only cleans the database once a month, once every 3 months, once every 6 months, but also, and takes out the junk, but also does statistical analysis on your alerts so that you find preconditions of failure. That means you need another role, another person. And if you're a service provider, this is an amazing service that I'm having the largest financials of the world buy today by the bushels, by the bundles. Okay, this is an incredible service. It's you go in and you do statistical analysis on the alerts, and you say, hey, you know what, man? Every time this server gets maintained, the service goes into cardiac arrest. Okay? So how about we schedule the maintenance of the servers and something, because it seemed like a non-critical service. You want another one, a real one? I'll tell you an example. One of the largest banks in the world, and I'm not going to say names, found out that 30% of their alerts were coming in, the downtime of branches were coming in because of server configuration disparity. Did I say that in correct Spanish? You understand how bad that is? They couldn't have found that out if it didn't come from predictive and statistical analysis of their alerts, because it just wasn't clear. So the next one is SLA management, which is pretty clear. Pre-process engineering is something simple. It's pre-production. Reinstate the old practices of pre-production. Reinstate the environments where you test things. Because you know what? My dear friend over here, who's the most expert and advanced, and by now he has an integrated environment for management and trained in PowerShell and Orchestrator and can do an awesome job. Do I have to say anything better? This is a great guy now. You see? So this guy here, he's going to be able to do one thing. He's going to be able to automate and enhance his day. You know why? Because I didn't feed him the pre-predictive maintenance, whatever, the statistical analysis. So then I tell him, no. You got to make your day better, but you also got to do all this. Okay, so he fixes all that. But what happens is he does a script that conflicts with another one, never finds out, throws it in production, everything blows up. He needs a pre-production environment more than ever. More than ever. Last but not least, automation, service lifecycle, and self-service. We found on self-service in an example, this is a bank in France. Why so many financials? I don't know. Just the way it is. But we found this bank in France who came up with this incredible example. Please laugh all you want. It's a true case. They gave the self-service portal to a business architect. The guy went in. He said, I want a service. Nothing happened. He clicked the button again. Nothing happened. He clicked the button twice. Nothing happened. He kept clicking the button. Nothing happened. He kept clicking and clicking. And he said, that's it. I'm done with you. What he did is blew up the whole service. And then the IT people were mad. He was mad. Everybody's mad. Nobody understood one simple thing. A service portal without a dashboard that says I'm servicing you and it takes 15 hours and you've been billed $20,000 is useless. So dashboarding is one of the best practices you can do right now, right along self-service portals. Okay? So with that said, let me just show you super simple. From all of our properties, we've learned a lot. And like you heard on the keynote, Azure runs on Windows Server. That's a huge statement right there, huge. Because you're getting all the benefits of efficiency. 10,000 servers to one administrator. Huge benefits. Now, if I just run into this, we're doing a couple of things on the licensing that are very interesting. Why am I going to licensing? This is a market strategy. Stay with me. I'm not talking licensing, really. First is we're not capping any product at the needs. We're not telling you this version has this processors and this other version has this more processors. Or you can do this features here and this features there. If you notice, the free version of Hyper-V has exactly the same features that any other feature, that any other on the Windows Server. It's only about how many Windows Server licenses you can stack on top. The difference between standard and data center. That's a strategy right there to enable this. If you look at the consoles, we don't sell you consoles. We don't sell you a console to manage the virtualization, to do the replication. We don't charge you for replication. Did you see if we charge you for replica? Hyper-V replica? We don't. There's a strategy behind that. Do we charge you for PowerShell? We took it from 240 commandlets on 2008 R2 to 2,400 commandlets. There's a huge, huge enhancement there, so you can manage and automate and script all the way down from the hardware all the way up to the application. There is a strategy there. It's all based on the same concept. If you look at System Center, why did we stack it under one single SKU? Because we want you to try the integration across the tools, because we knew that people were buying one and then having a hard time justifying the second and third. So now you buy one, you get everything. So start integrating and start seeing what a rich ecosystem of integration can provide to you, and so that you don't have to redeclare. And I'll go into what redeclare means in a second. And then obviously there's no conversion, no migration if you want to be a service provider or if you want to go into Azure. And that's super powerful, because today, if you want to go into another architecture of somebody else, you need to migrate or convert. Is that fair? And you want to bring it back, migrate or convert. All that adds friction. You know what friction is? Less opportunities to automate. No automation, no cloud for you. So, last but not least, we achieve all this, everything I just said, with these three products, okay? With these three sets of families. Let me show you how they look. I know you've seen these products. I don't have screenshots of R2. This is screenshots of current version, because I truly believe in two things, and you can crucify me for this, I'm okay. Number one, this is what's available today. So I'd like to talk about what you can go deploy right now. And second, because I didn't have screenshots of R2. I don't know if you find that fair or not, but I didn't, so I'm sorry. Okay? So there's the honesty. Let me show you how this looks, but I'm going to show you the opportunities for friction and the opportunities for automation. The first thing you do is you add all of your infrastructure, right, into a resource pool. Second step is you define roles. Now, it's very important that you understand that in a cloud environment, there's going to be different roles than the ones you have right now. Number one, we're going to have this wonderful lady who's she owns everything, okay? She's the owner of the whole infrastructure. Now, this kind of gentleman right here is going to come and say, I want to build a finance cloud. You know what that translates to? Give me a couple of servers, give me some storage, give me some networking. So she says, fine, and she gives him a piece of that. He's the owner of what we're going to call now the infrastructure cloud, or the cloud for finance, right? That cloud is going to be available to you four gentlemen who are going to be the builders of services for those clouds. In other words, the builders of the template. Okay? You define the application or the service that you're going to provide. And then behind you, we have 17 or 34 people who are going to be the consumers. Now you see the roles? So we have three different roles now. We have the guy who owns the infrastructure for this cloud, and then the service template and or service definition managers. What this means is that we have to define what each cloud contains, and then what are the roles within each cloud. I'm just flashing this because that's all the point that I want to make. And then we define the templates, the services. And the templates can have 1 tier, 2 tiers, 3 tiers. Some of them are going to be completely automated. Some of them are going to be legacy. Some of the tiers. And once you do that, you create the unit of deployment. Because not every time I press the button, I get the full template, right? I get a unit. Now, that's what we're doing with VMM. Right there. Let me show you the next one. What happens once we go into this self-service portal? When I click one more, and what you got to understand is now that you have to go into a ticketing system. You can go into hours or anything that you want with PowerShell and Orchestrator, but the point is I need to get a ticket because this is a formal add on the ITIL process of my data center. Is that fair? So once I log this add, I have to go into a workflow. If you're using our service manager, God forbid, what you get is a workflow that's integrated with Exchange. If you're not, use whatever you want. PowerShell, Orchestrator, we can enable it. The beauty of this is once this is approved, Orchestrator kicks in and puts it in production. I'm trying to show you how all this dream works, and then I'll show you who's doing it. Okay? I'll give you a real-world example. And then at the end, what you have is just a regular process. Now, how many times did I have to redefine the template? None. That's the secret. That's what we're trying to achieve. If you ask me, what is the strategy of Microsoft? Is we're not trying for you to define different conversion moments. You see? We need to convert and redefine the template of monitoring, of configuration, of backup. You don't. You just consume it. You define it once. What happens? Here it is. Once this is in production, I just consume it. Ops Manager understands the template and starts monitoring it. It's that simple. Once we go in, we say, okay, you know what? Through Avicode, this acquisition that we did, now we have application performance management. I can't state this hard enough. If you wanted to do this with any other tool, you would have to have one console for your hardware and your ticketing and your et cetera, and then another console for application performance. Is that fair? Here, with what we did with Avicode, it's an agentless a monitoring system that can monitor .NET, Java, JavaScript. You can go in and set thresholds and say, look, you know what? On this application, there, I went too fast. On line of code X, right? On login.aspx module, you're taking 15 seconds. So this is wonderful because you go to the developer and you tell them, it's not my grandmother, it's not the weather, it's your line of code and it's right here. And it's not the network. That's the common criminal, right? So it's a beautiful thing. This is the same console that would send you an alert saying the disk is jittery. Okay? Now, obviously you can segment it for different operators and different monitoring and different system administrators. Dashboards, you can build them with System Center Ops Manager, SharePoint parts, and these are as important as the self-service portals. So I know I went too fast through this, but come on, I didn't need to go deeper. There's a ton of sessions in this conference that are going to do that way better than me. I just wanted to show you the whole story end to end because very few people do that. Is that fair? Very few people show you the whole strategy, how it looks. Okay, so with that said, let's go into this guys. I was choosing a whole bunch of examples, but look, let me just finish by talking about this guys. I'm going to talk 30 seconds about them. They're an incredible bunch of people. The ING Direct people in Australia have a branchless bank, so they don't have any physical branches. It's all a website. And the fifth largest mortgage, they do credit card, they do regular banking, commercial banking, and their whole banking experience is the website. It was taking them 18 months to grab the website and give it to the developers so they could do any changes and then promote it to production. This was obviously unacceptable, right? So, what did they do? The CIO and the chief architect came in, and they came up with this brilliant idea. It's called Bank in a Box. Have you heard of this? It should be called Bank in a Container, because it's so big, but Bank in a Box. And the idea is quite simple. They defined the standard configuration for the core banking system. Now, this is huge. What I just said is huge. This is certifiable. This is compliance-based. This is financial. This is more complex than 90% of any other workload you're going to throw at me right now. I'm not kidding. It is that complex. What they did is they typically standardized it, put it into a template, replicated it, and got it so efficient to the point where right now you press a self-service button and you get 10 configurations within 20 from this 220 VMs within 12 minutes and 20 seconds. Isn't this spectacular? Now, you think this is not cool enough? KLM.com. 6 weeks to 1 day. Deployment from environment to environment. Think this is not cool enough? I don't know if you've heard the case about Arca. Arca is the fourth largest distribution and bottling company for Coca-Cola in the world. They operate in South America. They went from about about 300 servers to 60 servers, all fully automated and managed, and it's an SAP environment. Let me say that again. SAP for finance, for bottling, for distribution, and for sales. All the processes of the company, core processes. Did you hear me say web there? I said core processes, the whole company. 4th largest bottling group in the world. Is that cool? What am I trying to tell you? Yes, this can be achieved. Yes, this can be done. Choose will, understand your maturity, progress, do the right steps. I have no idea how much time I have left. You tell me? 9 minutes. That's incredible. 10 minutes for questions, isn't it? So guys, let me just finish with one thing. It's not about tools. It's about capabilities. Okay? You can read the rest of the summary. I did a wrong job at putting too much stuff in that slide. It's everything what you just saw. There's a whole bunch of cool resources. I already gave you the link to the optimization stuff. A whole bunch of certifications that we have out there. Let me bring up the most beautiful slide in any Microsoft presentation. Thank you very much. And by that I meant the Microsoft logo slide, but I got the evaluation slide.